Hey everyone, welcome back to Dev Parkour. It's been a couple weeks, but I wanted to talk about a project that I'm kind of sort of doing, kind of in the spirit of some of the previous videos on the channel. So I've talked about, being a multi-potentialite, being interested in a lot of different things, and having to figure out when to say no, how to evaluate what I should spend time on and what I shouldn't spend time on. And this project kind of fell into my lap. Not a real big project, but I think it demonstrates a lot of what I've been talking about. So let me kind of set the scene. So there's a brewery not too far from my house that serves really good beer. So it's one of my favorite breweries. But they're not a big operation, right? So they have people who serve beer and people who brew beer and people who sell their merchandise, and that's kind of what they're focused on. They do have a website, but they're not that's not their main thing. They're not web designers. They're not really they don't wake up in the morning and say, I want to build the brewery website. I want to make sure it's up to date, that sort of thing. So they do have a tap list, but unfortunately it's not as up to date as, well, they would like even. But, when I go there, the tap list on the website might not be up to date with what they're actually serving. So I got to talking with them, right? So, first step in finding an idea and finding a project is finding a problem, right? Well, we have that. We have a problem. And they agreed this was a problem. Again, I started talking to them, and their frustration was that it was a bunch of different steps to get the list of beers that they're serving uploaded to the website. They have to take a picture, they have to email it around, and someone has to upload it to the website. It's kind of a pain. They wish it was easier. I'm sure I'm not the only one who wishes that the tap list online was up to date, because while it is close to my house, it is a bit of a drive, so I don't want to be super excited to have something that's specifically listed on the website and get to the brewery and have it not be available anymore, have them be out. Not too big a deal. They have lots of good beers that they brew. They're always brewing something new, but that's beside the point. So I started talking to them and asking about some of the challenges they went through. So it turned out that they were using Square, and that was kind of a headache, but that's tangential to this story. But they kind of detailed that there were some frustrations in dealing with Square. However, they are very invested in using Square. They're not going to move from the Square platform to something else, especially not just to get a tap list to be updated on their website. So basically, I started elucidating the constraints. So they're using Square. I would need to have to work with Square. They're actually using Square's website capability, which I didn't know Square had a website capability. Apparently they do. But that was less important to me because I figured I would just scrape the API. Well, scrape is the wrong word, but talk to the API, get some information, and then build a little HTML widget. I've done this sort of thing in the past, but in that situation, I actually controlled the data. I built the database that stored the list of beers, because the restaurant at that time that I was doing this for didn't have a point of sale system that really lent itself to integration. So Square, on the other hand, has an API. They're very programmer friendly. They're forward thinking. They're a relatively new company, so they were kind of API first from the very beginning. So, all right, so we've identified a problem. We know who we're working with, and I've started to kind of figure out some of the constraints. What's in, what's out, what are some things that I need to do research on. So the biggest thing that I needed to do research on was basically, how do I get the information of what's on their point of sale system? Because when they put a new keg on, they take the old one off their little iPad and put the new one on. Well, I need some way to update the website when that happens. So obviously the easiest way to do that would be if there's some API that where I can get the list of everything that's showing on their iPad, and then just show that on the website. Right? Of course, that doesn't exist. I went back and forth with Square's developer support. That API doesn't exist. They've brought it to the product team, but I don't expect that to happen anytime soon if it does get implemented. So that was kind of option number one, which obviously is not really an option. Option number two was, I figured the things that are actually on tap, that have, the kegs are connected to the taps, people are drinking them, they're going to start showing up in orders as soon as the keg goes on. So what about getting a list of products, items, beers, ordered by, last ordered date, essentially, or the most recent order that contains them, that includes open orders, right? Because if you start a tab, you haven't officially checked out. You have ordered the beer physically, but your order isn't closed, so it's an open order. So I need to look at that. Unfortunately, they don't have an API for that either. There's no way to list products and get the last order date. However, you can go the other way around. So I could basically go list a bunch of previous orders, maybe over the last 24 hours, would probably be sufficient, would probably get me all of the taps, right? Because as a brewery, you're not going to put a keg on that nobody's going to drink. You're going to want that keg moving, every single day. So that's probably what I'm going to do, because I think that exists. I haven't tried it out. Again, this is very early stages in the project, but notice that nowhere in this conversation did I say, I wrote code to test this thing out. No. I did research. I asked questions. I thought about it. I'm thinking about, here's a problem. How am I going to solve it? Is it worth solving? I think it is worth solving, if only to, help out my local brewery, and, have some fun as well. So if that doesn't work, I do have a kind of a next approach, which is basically I get the list of all the beers, and there's a manual process that when they put a new keg on, they find the beer, they say, yeah, this is on now, this other one is off. That would be a little bit frustrating. It would basically be what I built for a restaurant almost 10 years ago now, maybe, yeah, about 10 years ago. But in that case, I was running the database. In this case, I'd be using Square as the database. I don't think that's something that they would be up for, but it is a potential option that, again, they might not go for. I wouldn't want to be in a situation where I build all this code and it turns out that's not something that they want. So what I am going to do is I'm going to present these two options to them, and if they say, if option A works, that's get the most recent orders and find the beers, and the last 14 of them, because they have 14 taps, the last 14 of them show up on the website. If they say, yeah, that's sufficient, we go with that. And if they say, if that doesn't work, this other approach where they manually change it on and off is okay, cool. I have two options to play with. My suspicion is that they're going to say, option A sounds like it'll work. Option B, we don't want to introduce another level of manual effort. So I haven't had that conversation with them yet, but I'm hoping to in the next week or so. I'll let you know how it goes. I'll share on the channel, and certainly when I whatever I implement, I'll share on the channel as well. So I just didn't want to let too much time go by without making a video. So hopefully this was interesting. If you have thoughts, if you've worked with the Square API, I'd love to hear your experiences. If you run a brewery or frequent a brewery and have other ideas, let me know in the comments down below. Love to chat code, love to chat beer. Yeah. This is the day before 4th of July when I'm recording this, so have a happy 4th of July if you're in the US. If you're not in the US, I guess, you know, if there's a holiday to celebrate, go celebrate a holiday. But hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed, and I'll see you in the next one.